We work a lot on a very wide diversity of conservation issues in Israel. It's a very small country, but it's a very diverse country in terms of conservation. We have very big differences in habitats, in ecosystems, in wildlife conservation is a very important issue for us. So since we've signed the convention, our party convention, we take our responsibilities very, very seriously. And we want to try and see how we can bring the issues that the convention discusses home to us to help us improve and make our work better.
So tell us about the greatest biodiversity issues in Israel at the moment.
Well, one of our biggest challenges is we have very diverse, as I said, wildlife, and because of the small area that we're dealing in, we often have conflicts between the wildlife and the human population. I know that in India, for example, it's a problem with elephants. We don't have elephants, but we have wild boar, we have porcupines, we have many bird species that affect agriculture, and because the wild areas are very, very close to the populated areas and the agricultural areas, this conflict is natural. So one of the things we have to do is try and find ways to conserve the populations of the wildlife, and at the same time reduce and mitigate this conflict that occurs between the wildlife and the people.
Right. So you said that although Israel is a small country, but it's extremely diverse. How challenging does it become at the policy making level to make policy for the entire country, which you know is very diverse, so that it caters to all the small pockets of people, animals, so that everyone's interests are taken care of?
I think there's a general feeling in Israel that the people and the government support conservation, want to preserve conservation. The problem is always the issue of finances and how to find allocation of resources enough to be able to support this will. So Israel, unfortunately, because of the military situation that we're living in, has to put a lot of its resources into security. But at the same time, we have to find ways to preserve our natural areas. And this is something that's very important to do. So it's a challenge to try and find ways to do it. Because it's a small country, the levels of government are not very complex. You don't have many levels of government like states and then regional. Everything is done at a federal level. Right. So that makes it easier to enact legislation. We have very good legislation in place. We're trying to work to improve cooperation among the different ministries, to improve some of our issues, but the issue is more in implementation on the ground, in enforcement, in education for the public, to be sure that that this is done properly.
Right. Tell us about some major initiatives that have been taken up at the government level.
One of the major things that we've done in following the requirements of the Convention on Biological Diversity is preparing a national plan for biodiversity. And this was done together by the Ministry of Environment, together with my agency, which is the Nature and Parks Authority, which is responsible for wildlife conservation in national and protected areas. And together, and also with some NGOs, we built a new national plan for conserving biodiversity in the country. And this is one of the, this was a big project, and it was a successful chance for everyone to work together to come up with a good document. Of course, the next stage is to take this document and start implementing it in a real way.
Right. Is the government also trying to focus on decentralizing the responsibilities by means of encouraging more and more NGO participation?
There's not a lot of NGOs that are involved in these issues. There's maybe one or two major NGOs, and they're already very much engaged. As I said, because it's a small country, the people who are dealing in conservation, we all know each other. I'm a scientist who works for the government, and I have very good relations with the scientists from the NGOs and the scientists in academia, and it's very easy for us to pick up the phone and work together on projects. And if they have a complaint against the government, rather than some amorphous government issue. They can call me, talk to me, and we can work together. So there's a lot of cooperation with the NGOs, with the government, and with the academia together on these issues.
Brilliant. So when you get home after COP11, what are the expected takeaways?
Well, I'm here to learn, to see what I can bring home. My expected takeaway is to come home with ideas on how the convention is implemented in other countries similar to ours who have different issues, to get new ideas for how to take some of these issues home and to apply them to problems that we have in our country.